for some of the things.
What about the time you did it in 5 days? Is that normal, not normal? Because you're in a rush?
Yes and no. It's
Average?
it's average, or no, it's the fastest you can do it. But it's average. Most people do it in the 5 days.
That have trained?
Yeah. People who have done it before will always do it in 5 days. I've never done it before, but I figured, they can do it, I can do it. Like I was saying, one of the guys that I met on the road, Anton, the one that actually did the whole thing from the 500 miles, he did it in 3 months. So, if I'm doing 80 miles in 5 days, that's to do 500 miles, you would take, no more than maybe 5 weeks, 6 weeks? But no, you can't do that because
Exhaust yourself.
yeah, and in fact, some of the folks that I walk with, they run marathons. But they say, okay, it's one thing to run a marathon in a day, but you don't go around running a marathon for like 5 days in a row. So your body needs that recovery. So in order to do 500 miles, you normally take two months minimum, if not 3 months. So, well, welcome everyone. Sorry, before still. So now, well, before I start, any questions or any thoughts? So like I said, several people have come to me and said, hey, can we do this as a group? I don't know. Will take a little longer.
Yeah.
Are there any other challenges that you want to do, like the pilgrimages, like this thing you want to do?
I do. I mean, after coming back, so one of the funny things that as you get closer to Santiago, again, by that time, you actually get to meet a lot of the folks. And even though you're walking at your own pace, you're not just walking with it as a clump group. At the different rest stops or at the end of each day, you do kind of meet up. And especially if it's during the winter, like some of the stops in some of the towns that we were in, there's only like one restaurant that's open. So if you want to have dinner, everyone ends up being there. And so you do kind of meet up after a while, and it's actually great. So towards the end, the common question is, are you thinking of doing this again? And the most common answer is, ask me in about a month or two. Ask me in a year. But like on the first day, even before I got started, the very first lodging that I stayed at, there were 3 other guys that were staying there. And so in the morning, as I was getting ready, at that moment, I was feeling really nervous. Like, oh my gosh, what did I commit myself to? And one of the guys came up and I was talking to him. And again, one of the amazing things about doing these things that are not in America but in foreign countries is you learn to communicate with people whether they know or you know their language or not. Language is never a barrier to communicating. Just broken English, broken Spanish, broken whatever language, hand gestures and Google Translate. The guy, so one of the guys said, what was this? It was his 42nd time doing it. Yeah, so I'm thinking, he does this like every year? Yeah.
Distance.
He does, not all the time, but to do it at least once a year is very common for some of them. And again, if you're going to do anything more than what I did, you gotta have some either substantial vacation time Or, again, one of the things I did learn is in the European culture, they don't work as much.
Now they
They're
get
not
substantial
driven,
vacations.
yeah, they're not driven like, I mean, in a positive way. They're not crazy like Americans. They think Americans are just nuts. However, everything just evolves around work, 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 work. And it's not like that there. They enjoy themselves. They take long vacations. And that's a regular thing. It's not like, oh, once in a blue moon you have an extended vacation. No, it's living. What we do is surviving, yeah, trying to survive, right? But, yeah, so in many ways, our bishop and our district superintendents tells us clergy to go and take your vacation. But the purpose of telling that to us is take your vacations because you need to be rested in order to work. So the purpose is to work, and you need to rest in order to work. Their concept is no, you work, but living is to take your vacation. There's a different mentality. Anyhow, so welcome and let's get over. Testing. All right, let's pray. Oh, gracious Lord, we give you thanks as we come together at this time to just reflect upon just my experience in this journey, but to be able to share it, and through this, just have a glimpse of life, lessons in life that are learned through such journeys and such pilgrimages. And we pray, oh God, that as we share our experiences together, we have a better appreciation of the life that you give to us. So be with us and just bless us in our time together. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. All right, so last week I kind of gave the historical background and all of that, but if you need me to repeat some of that or explain some of that, I'll do that. Today I'm actually just going to go through each day of the walk, starting with day 0. Okay, day 0 is basically the day that I left here. So in order for me to go to do this pilgrimage, Camino de Santiago, of course it's in northern Spain, and so I had to fly out there. Yes, you can see. I took a picture of on my phone because when I landed, it was 22 degrees. I didn't expect that. I mean, yeah, as I was preparing for this, of course, I'm checking the weather. I need to know, what do I need to take in order to prepare for the walk. I was not expecting 22 degrees. I knew it was going to be around 30, 30 and 40, so it's going to be wet and rainy and stuff like that some of the days. But as I got closer, I had some really great days, nice and sunny, but it was cold. So in Madrid, when I landed, it was 22 degrees. Now, I did take a picture of at the airport, that sign, because I don't care about where the parking is or where the bus terminal was, but I was glad to see the sign for Uber, because Anna said to me, if anything happens, there's no shame in calling Uber, on the walk. And I will tell you, there was a day when you had to fight that temptation to call Uber. Anyhow, so that was day 0. And so I left here on, January 14th. And Peggy and Paul graciously took me to the airport at 3 a.m. So yes, they had to get up at some wee hours to take me to the airport at 3 a.m. So I could get my, whatever my flight was, 7 o'clock or something. Anyhow, so once I got to Madrid, I had to figure out a way to get to Sarria. So Sarria is in northern Spain. Madrid is pretty much central. And so the only way to do that is, of course, you could fly to a neighbor. You had to somehow get there. Either take a long bus ride or fly to Santiago and then another bus ride or something like that. I took a train. It took
like 4.5 hour train ride up to. So that first day was all about just getting to Sarria, which is a small little town. It's in the northern region. It's in the region called Galicia, okay. And again, something that I didn't know, even though I did some research, is that thinking, Spain, such a small little country, it's just all Spain, right? No. People in northern Spain are, they talk about how even the language, Spanish language, is different. Spanish in Galicia is very different than Spanish in southern Spain, and very different than Latin America, Spanish for Latin Americans. But they have their own, in a way, culture. So Sarria is a small little town established back in the ancient days, around the 10th century, by Alfonso IX of Lyon, which Lyon is about 100 miles to the east. Anyhow, Sarria used to be a fort city to protect the capital of that region called Luga. Anyhow, so it's a small little town. And most of northern Spain, it's, again, very rural, and you don't have all the high-tech stuff, which, in a way, for what my purpose of doing this pilgrimage, was a good, a refreshing escape from the hectic lifestyle of Los Angeles or Southern California. So when I got there, I realized I needed some last-minute preparations, like I forgot to take an umbrella. I forgot to take certain things, it was going to be sunny, so I forgot to take sunscreen, so things like that. And of course, no matter where you go, there's always a store. There's a store called Shopping China. And you go there, and there's everything that you can ever think of. It's like the dollar store. So I got all these things that I needed. But again, the picture on the bottom, it's just beautiful, It's just like a little stream there. And that's the map of Sarria. You kind of look, and already on that map, there is that yellow kind of path, and that's the path that starts you off. Now, Sarria is the last, 117 kilometers from Santiago, which is the destination point. So it's already towards the end of the whole journey, and it's only one of the paths, right? This Camino Francés is one of the paths. Matt asked me, so are there other pilgrimages that I would consider? And my response to that is, yeah, after doing this, there's other paths. The other one that many people say, so if it's the first time doing it, Camino Francés is probably the most recommended because it's the original path and it's the most traveled path. But then the other one, Camino Portuguese, which goes all along the coast of Portugal into, so it comes from the other side. It's supposed to be a very beautiful route because you walk along the shore and the weather is a lot milder that way. There is another route called Camino Inglés, which comes from the north, and it's called the English Way, but it's also very harsh because you're coming from the north. So during the winter time, as I did in January, that route is closed because the weather is too harsh. And there are many, in fact, there's numerous routes, and therefore there's that term, all roads lead to Santiago. That's where that phrase comes from. And again, Santiago is the destination because it's where the remains of the Apostle St. James is supposedly buried. All right? So anyhow, the first, day 0 was just getting things ready. Day 1 started where one of the things I learned was in the Spanish culture, the breakfast is very light. The other thing about Western Europe, Spain, is that because of the way the time zones work, apparently all the main European countries decided that they're going to be on the same time zone, right? So whereas we have, United States have what, 5 time zones? 6, 4? Including Hawaii? Hawaii, Alaska, and then you have 3 here, oh no, 4 here, I know. So we have multiple time zones. But Europe, it's all one time zone, not including England. And because of that, if you're on the eastern side of Europe, Eastern Europe, then sun rises very early. If you're on the western side, so like Portugal and Spain, sun doesn't come up until after 9 o'clock. Even especially during the winter. And so, that was eye-opening for me because at 8 o'clock I was ready to go and it's pitch dark and nobody's awake. I went and so breakfast is also very simple. That's a typical breakfast. I had my Americano, orange juice, and a croissant. I learned why coffee is called Americano, because it's what the Americans drink. Because coffee if you just ask for coffee, it's really strong, like espresso. Yeah. So anyhow, when I started to walk, stepped outside the lodge that I was staying at, and what you look for are these yellow markers. They're everywhere. And so supposedly you can't get lost. Supposedly. But I stood in front of it as I said to myself, okay. And at that point I was like I said, I was quite nervous because I wasn't quite sure. It's like, what did I do? Anyhow, so here you go. I started my walk, starting from Saria. And you're thinking, is that picture crooked? Well, sort of. It's very much uphill most of the time. So the first day, I'm going from Saria to a town called Porto Marin, and it's about, on the map it said 14 miles, 22 kilometers. Shouldn't be that bad, right? Except this is like, as the crow flies, or if you walk in a straight line. And I learned very quickly, you do not walk in a straight line. And especially these paths, because these are very old paths. I'm still in Saria, and I realize, okay, I'm stairs. Okay, you just have to be comfortable with stairs and narrow paths and hills. You have these markers all along the way, and these markers are amazing because whoever put these markers, it's like dominoes. There's no place that you can be on this path where you will not see a marker. It's always within sight. So supposedly, you can't get lost. And then you have these drinking fountains, and it's interesting. There's several pilgrims that I kind of kept. I never drank from it, especially during the winter because it's cold. So some of them may be frozen, so I never. But we were always asking ourselves, "You want to try?" He's like, "I don't know. Is it worth getting sick?" No. But apparently, during the summer, people do. Let's see. Good morning, Camarillo UMC. I am starting my walk. I am here in Saria. I just left the hotel. I just left the there's cars. Abrego, which is a hostel for travelers, for pilgrims going on the journey. It is already 9 o'clock, and finally the sun came out. At 8 o'clock, I went out for breakfast. It was still pitch dark. I can tell that there are several people already walking, so that's comforting, so that I don't lose my way. There are these yellow markers that kind of point to where you're supposed to go. You can see it right here. There are those yellow markers. And so these markers kind of point to the direction. There is a map here of the pilgrimage of how we're supposed to go. So I will keep you informed as I make this journey. I am a bit nervous as well as excited to be walking on this journey at this time. It is cold, much colder than I had expected. Yesterday when I arrived in Madrid, it was only 22 degrees Fahrenheit. So pray for me as I lift up our church and our ministry in prayer. God bless. So throughout every day, twice a day, I created these videos and then I uploaded it to Facebook. And so for those who had Facebooks, I know some of you all were kind of following me along while I was in Spain. So the first day, as you can see, it's the paths are like that. You know, it's rocky roads, smooth paths. Why did I take a picture of that one?
Walk
Oh,
through the countryside.
yeah.
All right. And walk your step over.
Yeah. So you do have to kind of be able to walk these paths, and you go over. So it's very much not, you know, you walk across little planks like that, and it's like, where am I? There's a sign, but it's pointing the other direction. And then you can't really tell in that picture, but it's actually a pretty steep incline. You know, it's hard to because you're pointing up. So anyhow, so the first day, again, as soon as I got out of the city of Sarria, and I started walking, very quickly it becomes rural like that. And you're walking through that type of path most of the time. As you're walking through, you do pass these churches and very small paths. In fact, I have a picture after this cow. Hold on. Some of you seen this cow.
Okay. Coming across them.
Cow traffic. It's a lot of cows. So I'm trying to figure out, what do I do? What can you do? Just walk along them. And these cows are like, they're so used to having these pilgrims all around them, they just don't care. There's a little calf. As long as you don't mess with the calf, then the mom won't, yeah. Well, they're going that way. Yeah, they just kind of walk alongside of you. Yeah. So that was an experience I had never experienced before.
All right, but I'm going this direction.
Okay. And it's uphill. So along the way, you see these little just standalone chapels. And if you go inside, there's nothing inside except an altar. And on the altar, there are pilgrims place pictures, little mementos and things like that. It's basically you stop in these chapels for prayer, reflections. Those pictures that people leave are usually of people whom they lost. The movie The Way with Martin Sheen and Emilio Estevez has to do with the father who lost his son and is on this journey because the son had planned on making this pilgrimage. He ends up doing the walk for his son, his deceased son, and as he does so, it's his grieving process. A lot of people take this pilgrimage as a way of processing whatever that's going on in their life. So I didn't take a picture inside. I just didn't feel right taking a picture because it was a very sacred space. But you also, yeah, and then you also have these little sheds along homes and houses where it's open for people to take a break. There's basically a bench there, and you just sit. I learned that the first couple of times, I went in, I sat down, take a 5-minute break. I learned that it was harder. Once you sat down, it was harder to get back up. So it was better to just keep on walking. But they are there. And again, on the roadside, you have a lot of these makeshift memorials. And that picture up there is a pool, a pool actually. Now it had a layer of algae on top, so I didn't want to take a dip. But it was also winter. But in the back, where you see up there, again, a flowing fountain where you can just kind of refill your water bottle if you needed to. I don't know if you wanted to there, but anyhow. But along the whole journey, you're not just walking like a marathon or just it's not about finishing, although that becomes a destination. But as you're walking, you intentionally do. It lends itself to quite a bit of reflection and prayer because of the way it's these points of rest. Again, there are these markers all along the way, but some of these markers are not helpful, especially when you have 2 arrows that go in the opposite direction. It's like, what does that mean? Do you go this way or that way? And then they have markers like that. One says go this way, one says go that way. And on the markers, it has the mile marker, how many more miles or how many kilometers to go towards Santiago. So it's usually 100-something kilometers, whatnot. That one says 93.713 kilometers. I realized that again, you learn about different cultures have different ways of writing things. When I first read that, I thought, wait, I have 93,000 kilometers to go? It says 93,71. It's like, so you think it's 93,713 kilometers. And you realize, no way. There's no way it can be 93,000 kilometers. That's how many going around the world, how many times? They don't use a decimal, they use a comma. And it's to 3 decimal places. It's helpful to know how far you have to go. But the ones over there, there are arrows that go in 2 different directions. One is the original route, and the another one is called, it says, complementario, which I'm like, does that mean complimentary? But isn't complimentary like free? It's like, is it a free pass? No. Equivalent? Yeah, I guess, yeah. Basically, it's a secondary route. Now, what are the difference between the original route and the complementario route, equivalent route? Equivalent in the fact that it may be the same distance, but it could be more challenging, or goes through it's basically additional adventure. And you just don't know what you come to these points and it's one of those like, should I take this route or that route? And you don't really know what to expect. So it's like a gamble. It's like, should I go this way or that way? There was one time I actually went one direction and I'm like, nope, I'm going to go back around because it went through like, anyhow. So the first day, went to Puerto Marin, and by the time I got there, you walk across this long bridge into the city, and I was so glad because by that time, it was the first day, I was already very tired, my feet were hurting. I realized at that point, it hurt to go downhill as much as it hurt. You think going uphill is horrible, but at that point, going downhill hurts just as much. But once I got to my destination and to my lodge, this is what they had ready for me, So Bonnie asked, did I lose weight on this journey? Well, Now, on the second day, when I got to Puerto Marin, I was so tired that I didn't complete my route. I just went to, after I crossed the bridge, I went straight to where I was staying at, my lodge, and then realized I actually was supposed to climb this steps. I went around it because my lodge was on the other side. So the second day, when I got up and realized, oh, I didn't finish my route, I had to backtrack and then go up. So again, after that long journey, you have to go up this, it's called the Chapel of the Clouds. And it's supposed to represent a climb towards heaven. You go up the steps and then you go through the archway, through the door, and into the back. You see a cross, another place of meditation. And then you go up this street, which is actually what is the main street, Puerto Marin. But at the end, at the center of the town, is a church called Cathedral of Saint Nicholas. I know. Is it Saint Nicholas? San Nicolas. And it's basically, the church was established from ancient times to welcome pilgrims. And every evening, every afternoon, of course I missed it because I just went straight to it. They actually have a worship service there to encourage the pilgrims. And then in the courtyard, there is this cross again. And this cross becomes a symbol through the entire path. Every village, every town that you walk in and enter into, there is this cross that greets you. And it is a symbol of the pilgrims to welcome the pilgrims and a place of dedication, a place of prayer before entering into every town. It's beautiful. It was in the morning. It was kind of foggy out. Crossing another bridge. And then when I crossed that bridge, I got in another one of those. This way or that way. And it's like every time I see one of those, I'm like, I know I'm always going to choose the wrong one. So like I said, if I took the straight paths, it might have been like 75 miles. But I ended up walking like 112 miles because I kept going around like this. So the second day was, you can see the first half was completely uphill. And it goes up 725 meters, that's about 1,500 or 2,000 feet elevation, in about 13 kilometers, about 8 miles of just painfully uphill. And on that day, as I was walking, it's just, you can't tell, but it's just uphill. You walk along roads, and you walk along little villages, but it's just straight uphill. And it got to the point where you take like 5 steps, and you have to rest. Another 5 steps, take a rest. 3 steps, take a rest. And it was just climbing this hill, and you ask yourself, can I even make it, right? But you just continue on, and to tell you the truth, I don't know how I got to the top. I remember just saying to myself, just reach that point. Let's just get to that rock. Let's get to that tree, right? Because it was just, you look up that hill and you're like, oh, you're tired, your feet hurt. And of course, I had my backpack. Well, I don't know if you can see my backpack, but anyhow, I had a backpack on. That was about 30 pounds. On this journey, I intentionally, so again, part of the pilgrimage is you carry with you some of the burdens. And it's part of the pilgrimage is to, go through the trial of, again, it's one of those spiritual disciplines where you carry the things that weighs you down as a way of being able to release it to God. So for me, I intentionally took my laptop and my iPad and all of my electronics and shoved it in the backpack as a way of saying, okay, you know what? This is my burden in life. I'm going to carry it with me. Boy, did I regret it when going up that hill. But once I got up that hill, I don't know, you can't really see it in the back, but you see the clouds. You're up on top of the clouds, and it's just beautiful. And so again, the lesson for me on that day was, no matter how steep of a climb and how long of a climb there is, there's always beauty at the top. You just have to remind yourself of what that it's there waiting for you as you go up that mountain. And there's also a restaurant with a sandwich. And so that's a typical lunch. Do you know what that's called? That's called an omelet. It's like, that's a sandwich. But the menu said omelet. Well, okay, it was actually pretty good. It's eggs and 2 really hard bread. Something about Galicia, their thing is the bread there is all hard. It looks like a French bread, but it is hard. But it's the thing. They all eat it. It's like, okay, so that's what you eat. And then, of course, I continue walking. I have now 78 kilometers to go. And again, as I continue on, there are, again, churches. And a lot of the churches are also, when you read the sign outside, there are hospitals, there are clinics. And it's a reminder that in the ancient times, in fact, even if you think about where we live, our major hospitals, St. John's, right, or St. John. Most hospitals were established by churches. In fact, if you really think back to the 18th century or 16th century, churches, back then there were no such thing as public school or hospitals. Clinics and education were all done through churches. That's part of the mission of the church. And so it was a reminder that all of these were actually hospitals or clinics for pilgrims, but for that region, that area where people lived. And again, you just narrow roads like that, just constantly. You go through the little villages, and it was interesting. It took me a while to figure out what those things were, these structures. Every home sort of had this structure. Do you guys know what that is? Because most of these are very rural agricultural. That's where they keep their grain and the feeds, the animal feeds and things like that. It's basically a storage thing. But it looks like an interesting wall thing. Anyhow, more churches and more hospitals. Now, because I journeyed this pilgrimage during the winter, many of these were closed. But during the summer, a lot of them tend to be open. And again, as I reach Palace del Rey, there's that cross. And after a while, it becomes so, you see that cross and you get this extremely welcome feeling, knowing that, so again, the practice is as you enter into every town, just take that moment of prayer and reflection and giving thanks. All right, so then I got my first blister on my foot. I know, looks horrible, right? It actually wasn't that bad. Those moleskin things does wonders. That blister went away before I even got to Santiago. So this was day 2 when I got the blister. By day 5, it was healed. I know, those things. And that's the only blister I got. The rest of my feet hurt, but still, that was the only blister I got. And Galicia, the hospitality of the culture is amazing. And they're big meat eaters. And so, the food that they provide is amazing. Day 3, so every morning they provided me a little breakfast to get me on the road, very light. which I realize is a good thing because if you're going to be walking a long distance, to have it light is good. Again, they have these wonderful monuments. That's a symbol of patronage or communion, fellowship for pilgrims on their way together. I do have these number of steps. So day 3, 44,767 steps. It's only 20 miles. Do you think, wait, 44,000 steps should be more than 20 miles, right? No, because by the time you get to the end, you're not walking strides. You're like baby steps. So it's still counted as a step. Here's another video. I'm starting the Camino early today because I have a long way. Today's the longest of the days. Supposed to walk 30 kilometers. But as I learned from the past 2 days, the distance they give you, that's assuming that you walk in a straight line and not get lost. And so, knowing me and the fact that I will probably be making wrong turns here or there, and like right now, trying to double check my directions. There might be a few more than that. So the sun is barely coming up. It is 8:30 in the morning, but I am on my way. I'll check in once I get going on the main road. God bless. Okay. So again, the path is not, an easy path sometimes. I was like, don't fall, don't slip, don't fall. So, all right. So day 3 was the long day, and again, every day there was a lesson to be learned. The first day was about, whether I felt scared and nervous. Whether I felt prepared or not, I just had to start. Day 2 was climbing that mountain. That first 8 miles was just painful, just climbing that mountain. Day 3 was about endurance and just walking. Again, 20 miles isn't that bad. I mean, it's less than a marathon, right? But the amount of hills and climbs and up and down and dodging cow things, again, you take a lot more steps, and you're not just running or going in a straight line. It's a little bit challenging, and of course, getting lost and so forth. But day 3 was just long, and everything just looked like a path. Just on and on of just walking. Even though day 3 was long, a lot of people actually, the question was, is doing this in 5 days, the last 100 kilometers in 5 days, is that typical? Yes and no. Most people on that day 3 would have broken it up. There's actually a town, a pretty populated town, right in the middle. And so that would have been a great place to stop. Hello, Camarillo, UMC. I am continuing on my journey. It is about 2:30 right now. I've been walking for almost 6 hours. I still have another 3 hours to go. Today is a long day, and it is just on and on and on. The paths. It is beautiful. It's through the woods, and so you can see just it's on and on and on. Yesterday was one where it was quite steep and climbing a mountain, and that one I felt like it was a lesson on just gosh, just trusting in God and just praying as I went up that mountain. But once you got up to the top, the view from the top was just beautiful. And so, again, a lesson in life, how we face obstacles and challenges, but once you overcome them, there is definitely beauty after it to be seen. Today, it's about just enduring one step in front of the other. There are some hills and some quite steep downhills, but for the most part, it's flat and it's just on and on and on and on. It is a beautiful day. I'm glad. It's actually a bit warm, so I had to take off my jacket. I have to enjoy this time because starting from tomorrow, I believe it's going to rain every day until I fly out. And so tomorrow's journey, tomorrow and the day afterwards, will be in the rain. So that's something that I expected and I planned for. So hopefully it's not that bad. Well, at the end of the journey, or at the end of today's journey, I will post pictures. But for now, God bless, and I'll check in soon. I thought I had 3 more hours. That 3 hours turned into more like 5 hours because as you keep on walking, it gets harder to walk. So you don't walk as fast. And your steps become baby steps. And then at the end, it's another hill that you have to go up about another 1.5 miles of just straight uphill. It was just painful.
I think maybe another lesson of endurance is that once you have done it, you know that when challenges face you in the future, you can do that.
Exactly, and that is a lesson. With every day, again, that's the lesson that I learned. Now, there was another lesson on this day, and it's a lesson on temptation. Because towards the end, as you walk into every little village, there's a big yellow sign that says taxi. And you just have to resist, just call. It's like, nobody would know if you called a taxi because, I'm walking towards, on that day, for the most part, I was by myself. There weren't that many people around. So it's like, I could just call a taxi. But you have to resist that. Yeah, that's what happened. That's when I got there. Okay, so I was Arzua. Arzua is apparently the Wisconsin of northern Spain. It's known for their cheese. So the dinner that they gave me was one big block of cheese. I know. Anyhow, day 4, not as long, only 28,000 miles, 8,000 steps, a little over 12.8 miles. Again, I started off early in the morning, it's late, and then very simple. That bread, it's like, it's rock hard, but that's what they eat. I was dipping it in my coffee and people were like staring at me. It's like, that's not what you're supposed to do. But okay. This dog just came running up to me as I was walking and started licking me. So I was like, oh, it's so cute. Reminded me of Loki. And then again, a lot of rural. So there were cows and pigs and goats and sheep and chicken and all kinds of animals. And there again, memorials. So that's another makeshift memorial on the paths. And that one actually, on the side, they had a little plaque that showed that was dedicated to a man who was 69 years old on this journey, and he was supposed to reach Santiago on his 70th birthday, but he passed away the day before. So that memorial is a remembrance, and next to it, I don't know if you can see, there are pictures of other people. Again, and again, that's part of the healing process for people as they walk this journey. Is they remember, they pray, and just dedicate their journey. up and down all over the place. This, again, wasn't as long, and I was glad that it wasn't as long because it was a Sunday. And I didn't realize it, but on this day, in northern Spain, everything closes on Sundays. So again, it was rainy, and there was a couple friends that I met. Hello, Camarillo UMC. It is day 4, I think, and continuing on the journey. It is a Sunday, which means that a lot of the rest stops and a lot of the places are closed. It is actually a pretty interesting tradition. Well, it's not interesting, but in Spain, especially in northern Spain, in smaller towns, everyone closes on Sundays. It's like a tradition that we know of that have almost become forgotten when you live in big cities. It is raining, as you can see, and I was able to meet up with some friends that are on their journey. They've been walking for 300 kilometers. So 3 times the distance that I'm walking, and it's good to be able to walk with them. They're a young couple, and it's good to share stories as we walk. I will keep you more informed and updated. Hopefully we can find a place to rest. God bless. Okay. So, even though it was a short day, it was still exhausting. It was, again, thank goodness it was a short day because there was no place to stop. Whereas other places, there's a rest stop or place to eat lunch or things like that. There was nothing on this day. So if it was a long day, on this day, again, I left Arsua around just before 9 o'clock, and I reached my destination by 1 o'clock. So it was like a half day. And when I got there, food! Again, hospitality is great. And the place where I stayed at was actually an old windmill house. And again, this is where, again, I learned about the hospitality of these folks. I was the only guest in this, 20-some bed and breakfast. They could have easily, canceled my reservation or referred me to some other place. But no, they opened up everything just for me, and they catered everything just for, it's like, and I was just surprised. And I asked, why, I was talking to the host, who is not the owner, and I asked, why would the owner do that? And she said, well, you don't back out once you've made that commitment to welcome a guest. They keep that promise. And so, every day of this journey, as I'm meeting people, I got to see some really honest, decent part of humanity that sometimes we forget. And so, again, not only was the host there, but the chef, and the chef, that's just part of the meal. Provided me like 4-course dinner. Started with that block of cheese, but it's like baked cheese, so good. And then I did have the octopus thing. Now I did that on the first day too. I didn't know what it was. I just saw the picture. I didn't speak Spanish. I just pointed to it and didn't know it was octopus. And it was just a plate full of octopus. But this time it was the second part of the meal, and it was really good. And then salmon, and then dessert. I was so stuffed. So did I lose weight? Anyhow. And the part of the windmill house that had a like a museum. So I got to kind of walk around and just enjoy that day. Day 5, last day. 35,000 steps, 16.4 miles, supposedly, whatnot. Started to walk, and is that it? No, anyhow. Okay, I know. You see these things, right? So I kind of knew one of the mountain because as you get closer to Santiago, you actually walk past the airport. And you walk around the airport. You actually walk around the perimeter of the airport. And you know, makes sense. Airport would be up on top of a hill because, you know, it wouldn't be good for airplanes if it was in a valley. So I knew that I had to climb that mountain. But as I got there, you know, I went around the airport there. As I was coming down the hill of the mountain, I was looking at my GPS, and again, had Google Maps, and it said, for some reason, I only had like a couple more miles. It was only half day, and I thought I only had a couple more miles. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's a short day, just like the previous day. But my itinerary said, no, this is a full day of walking. My GPS said to go this way, and then as I was walking, there you go. One of the stop points is, again, another church, you know, beautiful sight. Walk across this little stream, stop by that church, and, you know, have a time of reflection. You come out of that church. I look at my GPS. It said, go this direction. It's only a couple miles. I'll be done. But I saw a sign, and it actually pointed in the other direction. So I'm like, well, wait, you know, why is it pointing me away? I asked a couple folks, you know, that were walking behind, and I asked, is this the way? They're like, yeah, that's the way. Okay, so I started walking, and I realized I'm getting further and further away from Santiago. And what it did was it took me around to another mountain. And that mountain was not a small mountain. So this is where the airport is. That is where the TV towers are, the antenna towers. It's at the top. And it was one of those where, as I was walking it, back of my mind, I'm like, why didn't I just follow Google Maps? But the more I reflected upon it, you know, again, you start having these conversations with yourself when you're on these long walks. You know, part of me is saying, I should have just taken the short route, right? The easy route. And the other part of me said, no, this is the route that you're supposed to be on. And I came to realize, you know, sometimes to stay true to the path means going up another mountain. You know, sometimes being honest and true to life means there are challenges that you have to climb. You know, it's taking the shortcut, taking the easy way, you know, that's the temptation. So again, every day was a lesson in life. As I got on top, you know, that mountain, and on the way down, I could see the city of Santiago. And this is where they said that from ancient times. Again, when you're walking these pilgrimages, one of the other reflections is that you're walking on the paths of hundreds of thousands of people who have journeyed before. You're walking in that same footsteps, right? And so there's something about that, you know, spiritual, and especially when you're climbing mountains and you're like, I can't do this, to know that you're not alone climbing that mountain. This is where they say that pilgrims would see Santiago for the first time. And that's true. You know, back then, I don't think they had Google Maps. They didn't know that they were going the long way. So they climb this mountain, they see Santiago. Now, I got to tell you, going down that mountain was one of the most painful parts of the journey, because not only am I tired, but my toes, going downhill, you don't realize how much that hurts. So I walk backwards. I walk sideways. I just walk in. I spin around as I'm walking just to kind of even out the pain. But you get down that mountain, you cross a bridge here, and then you enter into the outskirts of Santiago, and you start walking on these cobblestone roads. And again, I don't know if those cobblestone roads is a blessing or a curse, because you step on them, it's like it's sort of massaging your feet, but boy, they hurt. When your feet are hurting, it just hurts. You enter into Santiago, Santiago de Compostela, and again, it's called Santiago de Compostela because Compostela, derived from the Latin campus stelle, means the field of stars. That's where there was a vision of a star that shined upon the field where they found the remains of St. James. And so that's why it's called Santiago de Compostela. Excited, I was like, I made it. Except it's a city. And so from the outskirts of the city, it's another like 3 miles to get to the church. And so you are walking through busy streets and cars zooming by and traffic all over the place and people in suits going to work, and there you are. In that backpack. And everyone knows because they see pilgrims walking, and they encourage you. As they walk by, they say, Buen Camino, which means good journey. And they encourage you as you walk through. And you just kind of go through. In a way, it's actually, in my mind, I envision if there was someone like filming me walking through, just, you're so focused on just walking in the midst of this hecticness of life, which in a way is like, sometimes I get so caught up in again, the city life. And I'm so used to the city life. But here, as I was walking through all these distractions of life, part of the journey was just focus on where I was going. So you walk through streets and then you enter into old Santiago, which is at the center. And so you go into the old town. Again, you have that cross. You walk through these little streets into this small little archway. And you go through that small little archway, and it opens up to a huge courtyard of the Cathedral of Santiago. So I can tell you, when I got there, I didn't realize the rush of emotion that I would experience having made it. Now, of course, part of it is I made it, but then, and I didn't include the recording, but as I was sharing with the Facebook folks about being there, I just couldn't help but feel just this sense of just life, all the lessons in life that I got just from that short 5 days. And it's interesting, I spoke with others who have done the 3 months or been walking for several weeks, and they said that whether you did the last 100 kilometers or 300 kilometers or 500 miles or whatever, we all got the same lessons, about overcoming those challenges and obstacles of life. Then the very next day, I went to the cathedral for worship. And again, it's Catholic worship. It's in Spanish, so I had my Google Translate going while the priest is going. But again, if you're familiar with the Catholic tradition, the Catholic Church usually has very strict rules about who can receive communion, right? But not so there. When it came, and again, I'm following along, and I know the communion liturgy, and as the priest is consecrating the elements, he gives an open invitation, just like what we do. And he welcomes everyone, every pilgrim, whether you're Catholic or not. And it's the first time I ever experienced that at a Catholic church. They welcome everyone up to receive the elements. And it was just, again, an inspiring moment to worship there with others. And yeah. What did I do afterwards? Recovery. Try as many food in Madrid as possible. So I went and ate and ate and ate, and yeah, this is just a little, I have like twice as many pictures of different food. But anyhow, so yes, I did not lose weight on the journey.
Tell us what some of the stuff is.
Oh, so that's churro chocolate. It's a very famous place. It's called, what? Yeah, but this is the one it's called chocolate sanguines chocolate. And oh my gosh, you drink that chocolate, it is, people is known for that chocolate, and then you dip the churro, and there's a line across, to get that, but gotta do it, That is shrimp. It's like it's sort of, it's warm, it's hot, it's not cold. Yeah, and it's garlic and shrimp. It is so good. Yeah, there's no scampi, it's all shrimp, but it's in garlic, and it is just, and then calamari sandwich. Again, same hard bread, but it is just calamari to the max. And you just eat that. Now, the interesting part is you need that lemon because it's just calamari. So it's like, wait, I need a dipping sauce or something. They gave olives, and I after eating half of it, I finally went up and said, is there something I can put on it? Yeah, they gave me some sauce. I need my Tabasco, and that was breakfast. Waffles and stuff like that. This restaurant, So I was on not TikTok, but not Facebook. YouTube, basically all the review people of Yelp and all the places, and then that's just a bunch of tapas and empanadas. Now, I realize why the Spanish cuisines have tapas. So you can eat as much as possible. Because if you only can eat only one dish, that's not good. You gotta try everything. And in Madrid, they would have these like food courts or food markets or food festival places where it's like not street vendors, but pretty much like it. And it's like going to a carnival of food. And it was just, so yeah, after all that walking, that was the reward. I think that's it. So thank you. Don't you want to go on the journey? Again, you don't have to go to Spain to do this, but again, there's something, the Camino de Santiago is one of it's the third most commonly traveled pilgrimages of the Christian tradition. First is to go to the Holy Lands, and hopefully maybe in a few years when things kind of settle down, I would like to take a group to go to the Holy Lands to walk in the journeys of Jesus. Another one that I've been contemplating is the journeys of Paul. And I've been kind of, I went on the journeys of Paul back with the bishop back in 2003. And that you actually visit all the churches that the Apostle Paul started. Athens, Corinth, Thessalonica, Philippi, Berea, Ephesus. You did that? Yeah. That's really good for those who don't want to walk a lot because you're actually on a boat. It's part of a cruise, and so you sleep on the boat at night, and then when you wake up, you're at a port, and that way you don't waste a lot of time traveling. But it does end in Rome. So it starts in Athens and it goes all around, and you end in Rome. And so the second most common pilgrimage is to visit Rome. Yeah, I know it's Italy, but to visit Vatican. You know, how many have been to the Vatican? Oh, there you go, several of you. Right? So, and again, making this journey for Santiago. Now, for those who are young and don't mind, roughing it a little bit, a lot of young folks do the Camino de Santiago because it's also very inexpensive. Except for the flight to get there, Americans. But if you fly, like in January, it's only like $500 round trip ticket. It's cheaper than going to like New York. But when you're there, if you stay at the albergues, which are the public hostels, it's only 10 euros a night. And then the food, a full course meal is only like 3 to 5 euros. So like $5 a meal. And the breakfast, of course, is very simple. And so that's only 1 or 2 euros. And so for, like 30 euros, you have lodging and food for the day. So that's why a lot of young folks you probably heard of backpacking through Western Europe. That's what this is. Yeah, but in a spiritual sense. All right?
I'm sure the people are curious as well. Do they have like outhouses? That's what I would want to know.
Yes. Behind the tree.
So they don't have outhouses. When they're along the path, so they don't have, like we do jeeping and they have like outhouses on our trail.
Yeah. There are a lot of places that you can go to that have restrooms. And so along the path, again, you're not, I did a lot of forest walking, yes, but there are villages all along the way. And so there are places to, unless, one of the folks that I was walking with one of the days just went every 5 minutes. And so unfortunately, had to go behind the tree a couple of times. But, and yes, one of the things.
It's not a tree stop for me.
Yes. But yeah. Behind, yeah. But I would say on a typical walk, every hour there is a place that you could go. Yeah.
Is it more like by a cross?
There are cafes and there are these there are albergues all throughout. So there are rest stops. Yeah. My recommendation is you would want, you would probably want to go more towards the fall or the spring so that those places are open. Yes. But in the winter, there's nobody around, so behind the tree is fine.
One more thing. Do they have bicyclists on those trails?
Yes. Yes. And so at the end of the journey, when you go to Santiago Compostela, you do go to a pilgrim office and you do get an official certificate. So, it's all in Latin, and so I have one. If you are cyclists, you're required to go, further distance. There's a minimum distance that you have to journey to get the certificate of completion. But you can, but it's a different route. It's not, you wouldn't go up those because you can't. Yeah, there's steps and there's, so it's actually roads. But there is a cycling path.
You didn't mention wine, sherry, or sangria. What did you drink with all these wonderful meals?
I ended up drinking a lot of there is a drink called not Aquafina, Aqua something, which basically is the equivalent of Gatorade. Yeah. You don't want to drink alcohol. I mean, a lot of people drink, wine at the end of the day. And yes, I did have wine with a lot of my dinners always came with wine. But you don't want to be drinking alcohol during the day because you'll get dehydrated. Yeah. So at night, that's fine.
How did you choose the 5 days to do that distance? That's very rigorous.
It is because I only have a week of vacation. Basically, I didn't have a lot of. If I wanted to, yes, the church would have allowed me to take 3 weeks, I guess. But in my own scheduling, I only wanted to be away from the church for 10 days, and so it takes like 2 days to get there, and then another couple of days to recover, to go eat, and then come back. So then it only allowed me 6 days. Now I could have extended that to 6 days because one of the days I actually just rested, but and it would have been easier on that, especially that long day. If I were to do it again, I would break that up because that was just painful.
And the jet lag, did that bother you?
The jet lag, the jet lag did not bother me at all. Usually, like when I went to London, the first couple of days is hard when you're flying in that direction because you don't get a lot of sleep on the plane. Plus, it's early. And so it's typical that you get up late. But with Spain, because the sun doesn't get up at 9, I set my alarm for 7 o'clock. And I'm like 2 hours ahead of everyone else. So yeah, the jet lag didn't bother me at all. When I came back, I kept getting up at 4 a.m. Oh no, 2 a.m. And so yeah, the jet lag was worse when I came back, but not on the walk. Plus, you have a lot of adrenaline, and especially the first couple of days. And again, you're just walking. And so at the end of the day, you get to the place, you have dinner. So even though, because the sun comes up really late, breakfast is, late. When I asked if I can have breakfast at 8 o'clock, they'll be like, that's pretty early. But I'm like, I have to be on the road by 9. Dinner wouldn't start until 8 o'clock at night. Yeah, it's typical. And then they take their time, But, again, I would want to be sleeping by 10 o'clock because your body's tired. Your body needs to recover. Now, one thing that I was really amazed at is at the end of each day, especially after the first day, I thought my feet were just sore. And I thought, there's no way I can walk like this the next day. But the next morning I got up and all that pain went away. And so it's like, oh. And
Your legs, you would think you feel like rubber.
no. It was just, I don't know, maybe it's the food that they feed you. But yeah, so the part of my feet that hurt the most was, and I guess it's the way I walk, it's the front part, the balls of your feet. Because, and again, and you learn that you have certain body parts that you just never knew. Your hips ached like crazy the first couple of days. Why? And we're like, why does this part hurt? Not my thighs, not my calves. And my thighs and my calves were perfectly fine the entire time. My feet, the balls of my feet hurt a lot. And my hips, and the reason they say that your hips hurt is because a lot of it is uneven walking, so you're balancing. And so you're working this muscle side to side almost more than, your calves and your thighs. Yeah.
How many people did you encounter on the pilgrimage on average every day? Of people who were actually walking on the pilgrimage?
Yeah, so on that first day, I thought as I started walking, I was like, I see a bunch of people walking already, so I thought that was great. No, they were all just going to their work or whatever. I realized when I started walking, I was like, there's nobody around. On a given day, the number of people that were actually on the pilgrimage, again, this is January. Nobody does this in January, so it's very few. I would say maybe 5 people. So, yeah, especially on that long day. That's why that long day felt really long, is because, especially the second half, there was nobody until I got into the city.
I also think it's a lot different doing it by yourself versus doing it with somebody else.
Exactly, and so they say that the most commonly people, the most common time people do this pilgrimage or journey is, the busy months are from, well, it's from March to November, with May and September being the extremely high times. Now, some folks discourage doing it in May and September because some of those paths, as you know, were very narrow, and some people were said, they've done it during those months, and all you're doing is you're just like going through your train. Yeah, you just clogged, and you're like, Disneyland line, so it kind of takes away from that spiritual journey. Yeah. But the best times they stay is like early spring or late fall, because then it's cool. Now the spring is a lot wetter, so the fall tends to be much milder in its weather, and it's cooler, so you can do that. And there's still people around, and things are open. Between November to March, the winter, places are closed. A lot of those places, and again, it's common for like whole villages to be almost like a ghost town. And when I talk to some other people, they say that, yeah, people take 4-month vacations. That's typical. It's like, oh man, what a life. So, yeah. All right, well, thank you, everyone. We are going to be taking next week off, and then starting from March 11th, we are doing a 5-part series, Dr. Bill and I, on the month of March is Women in History Month. And so we will be actually doing 5 weeks of notable women in history who have made a difference, impact in society. And then this is all in conjunction with the Women of Note Festival that we're having on March 23rd, where we'll have a concert. Christy and Dory and Dr. Lin, they're in charge of that, where the music are all written by women composers, and it will be the women of our church providing all that music. So, yeah, so that's happening in 2 weeks, all right? Well, thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening, and you can dream of being on a journey.